Hello, everyone, and welcome now. This is the week of Christmas. I'm sending this out Sunday night. You are probably viewing it Monday or later. And welcome now to day 19 of our 22-day study. As I believe I mentioned in Saturday's video, I'll send these out each night ahead of time because with the holidays this week, you might want to watch them ahead rather than falling backwards some. And so those few hours may be of some benefit. All right, we are in chapter 55, and by now we've been able to see how the personality changes very much in this book, beginning with chapter number 41. Others see a third division between chapters 56 and 66, but I'm not so certain of that. All right, hitting the highlights here of chapter 55. Here is the open invitation. Come who are thirsty to water. You who have no money, come buy and eat. Even though they have no money, come and buy wine and milk without money and without cost. Rather than being without, now there's this indication that they have. There's prosperity language. It's probably not all that literal. Nothing flowed easily for these people, and certainly nothing flowed freely. However, this is spiritual language, and it continues to be language of optimism, looking long ahead to the paradigm of Christ, and then to the further paradigm that we await. That in God's reinstitution and reordering, that these things are going to look differently. Rather than the world not having enough, and the organization as it currently is, to where more people die of starvation every day around in Africa than died in all of 9/11. Yet, for the starvation, we just see that as a fact of life. Well, in God's eschatological paradigm, to use a big fancy word, and this permanent paradigm, things are going to look quite differently. At least I'm convinced of that. Let's see then, down to verse number 5. You will summon nations that you didn't even know. Verse 7 here, that the people, they'll return to the Lord, and who will show mercy on them and will forgive them. These people have been exiled, but God's going to open arms and receive them back. They're going to know people that back in verse 5 that they didn't previously know. Everything, look in verse 3, the covenant to David and all those promises are going to be fulfilled. So in the time of Jesus, they thought that this fulfillment was going to be. A new David was going to expel the occupying Roman powers. But yet, we in our Christian paradigm realize that this Davidic covenant is far deeper and far more lasting than temporal politics. All right. Down in verse 10 and forward here, there's a lot of prosperity language. The rain and snow falls, they water the earth and make produce of crops. Here in the same way that I make what God makes, here is going to be full of fulfillment. There's going to be joy. There's going to be peace. They're going to be the mountains and hills are going to be joyful. The trees will clap their hands. The evergreens will grow in place of thorn bushes. This is a rebalancing of all of creation. Things are going to be right. And nature is going to be able to observe that. Not literally by clapping their hands, but the idea something is is going to work correctly. The wrongs are going to be righted. Creation, as the scholar N.T. Wright says, has longed to be wisely governed by humans. And in the fulfillment of Isaiah 55, creation's going to breathe a sigh of relief because finally things have gone right. All right, chapter number 56. All right. And here's how the world is going to look differently in God's new creation. First, here it says, promote justice, do what's right. I'm ready to deliver you. Remember that definition of justice. Let's set the world in good order. How do we do that? Well, no foreigner is going to say that God excludes me. Well, remember throughout the Hebrew scriptures, religion was very much an ethnically isolated occurrence here amongst Judaism, as well as all religions of the ancient Near East. But now the doors of ethnicity are going to be open. Even the eunuch here should not say, look, I'm a dried up tree. The Jewish people, the eunuchs were not permitted to go into the temple even. But yet this is what the Lord says. The eunuchs who are faithful to my covenant, I will set up within my temple and my walls a monument. They will be better than sons and daughters. Eunuchs who were near the bottom of the social scale, without genitals, and serving as slaves. Yet who were exiled from the temple, they're going to be let in. And the idea is, if God is letting eunuchs in and foreigners in, He's letting anyone in. Be better than sons and daughters. Daughters and sons receive the inheritance. And yet, what these eunuchs, these outsiders are going to receive is going to be even better than sons and daughters, strikingly. As far as the foreigners who become followers of the land, God is going to bring them to His holy mountain in verse 7 and make them happy in His temple. The Gentiles were not permitted to go into the temple, but yet, remember, we've talked about this new temple, this permanent temple, inside this new Israel and this new Jerusalem. The permanent Israel and Jerusalem is going to look very much differently. And now perhaps we understand better what Jesus was doing, and He was setting this up as a fulfillment and also as a forerunner. All right. Chapter 57. I'll scroll down, look at verse 17. Restoration language. I was angry with them because of their greed. Remember, of course, Isaiah is concerned about a variety of ethical and moral issues, but greed has been one of them, as I've identified since the very beginning. And perhaps I stress that because these virtues, these ethical and moral concerns, perhaps have been underemphasized within the modern church. But God was angry because of their greed. But now He's seen their behavior. First, God says He will not be perpetually angry. Then in verse 18, I have seen their behavior, and I'm going to comfort them and those who mourn with them. And then in verse 19, I'm going to give them a reason to celebrate. Prosperity is available to those who are far away and those who are nearby. I'm going to heal them. The exiles are returning home. I've mentioned time and again in this study how the Babylonians dislocated the people, and now the land is welcoming these people back with open arms. However, these exiles as literal refugees also serve in a representative form to the spiritual exiles that God is opening up. The eunuchs, the foreigners, tax collectors, and sinners, as It was termed in Jesus' time that there's a place for them and a seat at the table for all forms of exiles, all those who have been pushed out. God does have a place at the table. All right. Thank you for joining with me on this day 19. See you tomorrow.